deployment of a strong competitive option for voice communication services, particularly in Greater Minnesota. It will provide needed regulatory certainty to respect of voice communication services, and it will encourage greater broadband investment in Greater Minnesota. That's a really big issue, especially in my district, and we feel that companies will have more incentive to invest and deploy broadband because they'll not be hampered by unnecessary state regulations and the current regulatory uncertainty that has prevented a lot or delayed a lot of the broadband development. It also, again, preserves existing landline phone services for all Minnesotans. It also strengthens the 911, the TAP, and the TAM programs by requiring all providers to pay into these funds. That's a very important piece of this because it's really important for our low-income families and for the tele-relay that is fully funded for them going forward. I think this moves Minnesota into the 21st century, joining 33 other states that have modernized their telecommunications laws toward a national uniform policy. So with me today, going up first would be Tony Mendoza.
Thank you, Senator Ruth. Mr. Mendoza, please state your name for the record. Begin with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairman Osmek, Senators. My name is Tony Mendoza. I'm the outside counsel to the Minnesota Cable Communications Association. Thank you for the opportunity to address the Cable Association's strong support for Senate File 1742. Our state laws governing telecommunications services, Chapter 237, is based on laws that are over 100 years old. Many of these laws date back to an era when there was one provider of telephone service and no comprehensive federal telecommunications regulatory scheme like we have today. It would be an understatement to say that today the telecommunications industry is vastly different, perhaps unrecognizable for someone that was alive in 1915. Internet technology has fundamentally changed the way we make telephone calls and the competitive landscape for voice communication services. Today, there are myriad ways of communicating with one another: voice calls, texting, chat rooms, email, video conferencing, and social media. And the market for all of these services is extremely competitive. Many companies now providing phone service use the same technology that providers of email, texting, and other web applications use. They use IP technology. Voice signals are packetized into data, transported via broadband, and miraculously reassembled at the other end of the line to allow you to talk in real time with the person you dial. This technology has come to be known as Voice over Internet Protocol, or VoIP, and it runs like other applications over broadband networks. We refer to them today as applications or apps. Email, texting, video conferencing, social media, these applications are not regulated by states like common carrier utilities, which is why we have seen an explosion in investment and competition for these services. But there has been uncertainty about apps like VoIP. In 2004, the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission attempted to assert regulatory jurisdiction over Vonage, one of the first providers of VoIP service in Minnesota. Vonage challenged the PUC's assertion of jurisdiction, and the PUC lost. The Federal District Court for Minnesota and the FCC preempted the Commission's attempt to assert jurisdiction over Vonage's VoIP service. But 13 years later, the state is again attempting to assert jurisdiction over VoIP, this time arguing that some kinds of VoIP providers are subject to state jurisdiction, while arguing that others are not. VoIP providers have again had to challenge the Commission's jurisdiction in federal court. There is no more justification for applying burdensome, century-old telephone regulations to VoIP than there is for applying those laws and regulations to email, texting, data processing, and social media. And there is certainly no rationale for subjecting one type of VoIP provider to state regulation, but not others. This bill protects consumers in multiple ways. Senate File 1742 explicitly preserves, as Senator Rude just alluded to, carrier of last resort obligations that apply to traditional landline telephone services. The FCC continues also to have broad regulatory authority, as does the Minnesota Attorney General through consumer protection laws. State consumer protection laws are explicitly preserved in this bill. VoIP also provides the most effective consumer protection of all, competitive choice. VoIP competes fiercely on price and service quality. VoIP also offers rich new features such as unlimited national calling, mobility, and unified messaging applications. According to the FCC, at the end of 2015, there were more than 920,000 VoIP subscriber lines in Minnesota, receiving service from 147 study by the National Regulatory Research Institute, which is the research arm for the Association of State Utility Regulators, show that consumers have not lost landline service in states that have modernized their VoIP statutes, prices have not increased, and service quality has not suffered. Senate File 1742 also strengthens our 911 program, the Telephone Low-Income Assistance Program, and the Telecommunications Access of Minnesota program. With respect to those programs, Senate File 1742 makes clear that all VoIP providers will pay into these funds and file annual 911 plans. This is not the case today. Today, many VoIP providers do not help to support these funds. VoIP is also a key to providing a broadband investment in Minnesota. Regulatory certainty is an incredibly important factor to companies that are considering making new broadband investments in the state. And today, we simply do not have that kind of certainty. Broadband companies cannot be sure whether they will be hampered by regulatory delays over decisions on whether to enter the market or expand to greater Minnesota from the metropolitan area. Other broadband investment chilling regulations include burdensome regulatory reporting and tariff filing requirements, merger and acquisition approvals that can take months or years to complete, and approval of promotional offerings. The prospect of utility-style regulation over VoIP hangs over the heads of broadband providers in Minnesota, freezing broadband investment decisions in the state. The Federal Telecommunications Act of 1996 says this: "It is the policy of the United States to preserve the vibrant and competitive free market that presently exists for the Internet and other interactive computer services unfettered by federal or state regulation." And the FCC has said this about VoIP regulation: "We cannot permit more than 50 different jurisdictions to impose traditional common carrier economic regulations, such as Minnesota's, on VoIP providers and still meet our responsibility to realize Congress's objective." The FCC wants a national uniform policy. Senate File 1742 aligns Minnesota with that national uniform policy. We strongly support Senate File 1742. It ensures that investment and development in technologies like VoIP and other IP-enabled services are not restrained by century-old regulations designed for a bygone era, while at the same time protecting consumers and important state interests such as a high-quality 911 network and tap-and-ban programs. The regulatory certainty legislation brings will result in expanded competitive options for voice service and broadband investment in greater Minnesota. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions about the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. We have a little bit less than 6 minutes left, so we're going to move to the next testifier. We have remaining time right now. We can ask the questions in this phase of the hearing. Mr. Bldg, please state your name for the record and begin your testimony.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, John Bldg with the Minnesota High-Tech Association, and I will keep my comments extremely brief and just draw your attention to a letter from MHTA in support of Senate File 1742. I'll just note that by providing a level of regulatory certainty with respect to VoIP, Senate File 1742 helps to send a strong signal that Minnesota embraces technology-friendly policies and encourages private investment to help extend our broadband network throughout the state. Modernizing the state's telecommunications regulatory framework, as more than 30 other states have done, will help accelerate investments in new communication technology and expand broadband access. And with that in mind, we ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bldg. A little less than 5 minutes. We can use here for the senator sign.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question for either testifier, but we're on extension probably 2 or 3 different times here. But can you just help me draw the direct correlation between passing this bill and an increased investment or increased access to broadband that we cannot track now?
Mr. Mendoza, you're shaking your head.
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to answer that question. Mr. Chair, Senator Simonson, there are 3 key services that telephone, cable, all providers of telecommunication services provide over their connections: broadband, high-speed internet, voice services, telephone service, and video services. It's often known as sort of the triple play. There are other services that are being also provided over home monitoring systems, alarm systems, things like that. Voice service is a key part of the revenue stream that providers earn from investing in a broadband network because it's all provided extent that we can compete on the same level playing field like a company like Vonage or Ring Central, which have no similar regulatory restrictions to expanding their service territory or even entering the Minnesota market, that will also encourage these companies, my clients, frankly, to invest in broadband to really get those revenue streams, the full potential of those revenue streams from this investment.
Any further questions from members? Senator Sin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe not so much a question, maybe perhaps for Senator Wood, an affirmation. If I've heard anything about this bill, it's been from seniors concerned about losing their hard-wired telephone. You have unplugged here, but would you just reaffirm that seniors can keep their phone under this bill?
Senator Root, are you stealing phones today?
Mr. Chair and Senator Sendham, we don't believe that the underlying bill does that at all, but we put this language in here because we really wanted to assure seniors that we have no intention of doing that. So that's why this language spells it out explicitly that we are not going to take away landlines.
And Senator Sin, I just want to point to make sure that people in the audience know the amendment, the 81 amendment, lines 1.9 through 1.12 specifically provide that direction in the state statute that landline services are not being impacted by this. Because I agree with you, Senator Sinjin. I know what we went through last time with this bill, and that we are not stealing Graham's phone. And if you want to have a rotary dial phone, it is perfectly acceptable to have that. Mr. Mendoza.
Mr. Chair, Senator Sinjin, to that question, I also wanted to reiterate their opponents have been claiming that because everybody
still necessary consumer protections, perhaps more than ever. I sent you all a long tome here, and I apologize for its length. I was hoping that its weight would be persuasive for you. And attached to that is a list of more than 35 consumer protections that would be lost under this bill. For example, under the current rules, if you're going to get your phone shut off, you're entitled to 5 days notice before that happens. Under this bill, that would be gone. And in fact, CenturyLink's contract states that exactly this, says the following, and I quote, CenturyLink always has the right to terminate your service without notice, if you fail to pay your bill when it's due. We find that a disturbing outcome. And speaking of CenturyLink, last year the CenturyLink bill passed the Senate 60-0 and was signed into law. What that bill did is rebalance regulation by relaxing regulatory burdens and treating everybody on the same playing field while reaffirming the enduring principle of universal service and maintaining necessary consumer protections, which is enshrined in Minnesota statute in section 237.011, the very first one, universal service. And the other, one of the other goals is to maintain customer protections during this transition, technological transition, and that's what we are still in, is a transition. That bill was negotiated among CenturyLink, the MTA, the Department of Commerce, and consumer advocates. Now, just less than 10 months later, you're going to take that bill and rip it up. There's no policy reason to do that. But first and foremost, this is a legal matter. As was discussed, this is in front of the federal district court right now, and the FCC and possibly Congress will step in. The legal dispute to which I refer is the charter case, which has precipitated this attempt to bypass the courts and overturn the PUC decision that asserted jurisdiction over local phone calls made by VoIP, this category VoIP. This case turns on a legal debate about a definition in the 1996 Telecommunications Act. A decision from that federal court is imminent, and undoubtedly this case will wind up in the 8th Circuit, and maybe even the United States Supreme Court. Further, the FCC or Congress may just resolve the case first. And with all due respect, we believe that the Minnesota legislature should defer to those other judicial, elected, or administrative bodies to make this call. Now, the proponents argue that they want certainty in regulation. Actually, they don't want any regulation at all. But they do not and cannot guarantee any of the things that they promise. Lower prices, better service, more jobs, large investment in broadband, especially in greater Minnesota. In fact, typically where these bills have passed, the exact opposite has happened. And the argument that many states have done this before is unpersuasive. The reason? They all did it prematurely. Because since that has happened, more 911 problems have arisen. More outage and service quality investigations have been opened. Jobs have not increased. They've actually been cut. And promises of broadband have not materialized. And there's a good reason for that. I'd like to quote from a December 2016 report, an independent report commissioned by the Idaho legislature, which is being asked, just like you, to do just this very thing. They, instead of this body, have taken a much more measured approach and asked for an independent study. Here's what the study said. In most urban areas, unlike rural areas, customers have multiple choices for broadband service. Competition in the broadband market is strong, and all this is happening within the current regulatory structure. And here's the salient point that they make. Changing, and I quote, changing the status of VoIP is not likely to significantly impact future deployment of broadband. The report further stated that one reason that everybody wants for deregulation is the certainty to incent investment. You heard that here. But that said, I quote, nothing has been put forward to demonstrate that broadband deployment is being suppressed by the current regulatory regime. Inarguably, in rural areas, broadband deployment lags, not because of regulatory treatment, but by simple economics. This is a costly proposition, and it is difficult to cost justify in rural areas. If these companies wanted to invest in broadband, they could do it now. There's nothing preventing them to do it. And there would be no need for the legislature to appropriate money, and I believe it's been about $60 million over the last 2 years, to incent public providers to deploy broadband in greater Minnesota if, in fact, these companies had invested. And of all the consumers that would be harmed by the enactment of this bill, it is those in greater basic business economics dictates that it is they who will be left with the highest cost and the fewest choices, or perhaps the only choice, a cell phone that is spotty and unreliable. For all the reasons stated, we respectfully oppose Senate File 1742. Thank you for your consideration of our comments.
Thank you, Mr. Elwood. There's approximately 7.5 minutes left. Ms. George, state your name for the record, begin your testimony.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Mary Jo George with AARP, we appreciate the opportunity to testify. I think Ron Elwood did a great job of kind of doing an overview, so let me just kind of hit some of the high points. You know, Senator Rude, we appreciate you for putting that amendment in about the protections for landlines, but I think what you have to understand is VoIP is a landline. It's just an alternative way to deliver that voice service. And so I think we have to make that very, very clear. And I think what's really, really important is to understand for the 65-year-old population and over, landline, whether it's being delivered on fiber, copper, internet, broadband, they do need the protection of consumer protections because it is a lifeline for them. They need to make calls in an emergency to connect for health and safety reasons and for social contact. So we say, regardless of the technology change, we need the basic protections. So again, some of the things, perhaps there is regulatory relief we could work on with the industry, but we want to maintain those very important service quality rules that we have today on the telephone. We don't want your phone shut off in the middle of the night. We need protection against unwanted charges that are placed on your bill. We understand that one of the carriers has already been fined for millions of dollars because consumers had unwanted charges. We also believe that really that this is not in the public interest. We know that many states deregulated long before they even knew how VoIP would be used on the public switch network. Many of them, eliminated oversight before the development of extreme weather events that have underscored the very vulnerability of this new technology to power outages. And as Mr. Elwood said, it makes it even more important to have consumer protections. And then lastly, on the whole issue of the impeding the industry's broadband investment, we think that's a false choice. We think that they can do investment, but we don't think it's either or, that we have to get rid of our consumer protections. So with that, I'll conclude my remarks, and I thank you for the time.
Thank you, Ms. George. Mr. Grant, you have a little less than 5 minutes remaining.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Bill Grant. I'm Deputy Commissioner for Energy and Telecommunications at the Department of Commerce. I want to thank you for allowing me a chance to speak about Senate File 1742. Let me begin by stating that the Department supports the comments made today here by Mr. Elwood and Ms. George regarding the importance of the consumer protections that are currently provided to Minnesota telephone customers. These are common sense protections that this legislature has determined that all Minnesotans who receive telephone service should have. For example, the right not to be charged for services that you did not explicitly ask for or authorize by either the telephone company or a third party. Being entitled to a refund if your service is out for more than 24 hours so that you are not getting what you paid for. Requiring that deposits for service be reasonable. Requiring that notice be given before service is disconnected, and that you cannot be disconnected, as Mr. Elwood pointed out, on weekends or legal holidays when telephone company offices are closed. Requiring notice that before the cost of your service is increased. Prohibiting companies that provide telephone service from engaging in practices that discriminate. Requiring telephone companies to complete calls to rural customers and charge the same prices for those same services as it charges to metro area customers in its service territory. And providing a forum for disputes so that customers can have their complaints heard and resolved in a timely manner by a neutral decision maker at no cost to them. These are just a few of the many provisions that this bill would eliminate, and I believe a handout you received from Mr. Elwood documents the rest of those. It's wonderful that the industry is beginning to implement more cost-effective ways to provide telephone telephone service is no different, but what is before you in the bill today is really about throwing out the protections the legislature has determined in the public interest without any discussion about their merits. This is a significant change in telecommunications regulation as it relates based on technology rather than the service provided to consumers. Here, government is really picking winners and losers rather than the marketplace. If the service is the same, shouldn't consumer protections also be the same? The even more basic question here was the one that Mr. Elwood also raised about the current lawsuit that is pending in federal court that will decide whether the state has the authority to regulate fixed VoIP telephone services. And I should draw a distinction here. I believe Mr. Mendoza mentioned the Vonage case. Of course, that's nomadic VoIP, not fixed VoIP. So the ruling in that particular case, we don't believe will apply to the fixed VoIP case currently before the courts. If the federal court determines that the state does have authority, then that would be a reasonable time to consider what, if any, changes to the requirements and protections provided to customers for telephone service are necessary in light of the changes in the technology.
Mr. Grant, we are out of 15 minutes. So
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and happy to stand for it.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. I'll allot 15 minutes for questions if we decide to use that. One question I have for Mr. Grant regarding his testimony. If I, as a customer, value all of the services and all of the protections that are being eliminated here in VoIP, I still have that protection with the traditional services that are available for every other landline, every other service that currently exists that is non-VoIP. Is that a fair way to make a statement? That if I value all of what you put out for us, if I just keep my current landline, I get all those services, right?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I believe you're correct, but the point is that the industry is transitioning rather quickly to VoIP and other similar technologies, and so we're eliminating protections as we're expanding the scope of the new technology.
Members, questions from Senator Bldg?
So it's really all about the technology that's being used, and that's an issue in the litigation. What we think, and why we think this is important here is because what's not happening in the litigation is any questions about policy. And we think that the legislature is the place to decide policy about what regulatory scheme is going to apply to all VoIP providers, and particularly fixed, we believe, should be on the same level playing field as nomadic. The problem is with nomadic, that decision is done. The federal government decided they're preempting any state jurisdiction over nomadic providers. So there's no putting that genie back in the bottle. And we think that the legislature is the appropriate place to decide the policy question of whether it makes sense to treat one kind of VoIP provider one way that's exempt from state jurisdiction with a whole other set of VoIP providers a different way that is subject to state jurisdiction. And that's what this bill tries to address from a policy perspective.
Senator Simonson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for that. I appreciate that. And, I think it raises that point and it underscores the point that there are other things happening outside of the Minnesota jurisdiction right now that could indeed have an impact on this particular industry. And I can appreciate the fact that there may perhaps be need for some reform when it comes to regulation. We do that all the time in different areas of government, but I'm incredibly concerned that we're going to, I think you indicated that you're going to lay this over, and my fear is that we don't have this opportunity to have any additional public discussion. And I think that the legal question is a sound one, and I wonder about the implications of passing this now, should you pass it, and what's going to come out of the court. So I wonder about a further stop for this bill at the Judiciary Committee and whether that makes sense. I'm kind of trying to work through that in my head right now, but I'll just listen to see if there's any more comments before we get too far.
Senator Bldg?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just thought of one more question regarding the nomadic phone VoIP or whatever it is. If one of our cable companies decided, CenturyLink or whoever, Charter, Comcast, decided to do an app for the phone that would be similar like what Vonage has, would that then negate everything for fixed versus nomadic? And we'd be done with this?
Mr. Mendoza?
Chair Osmek, Senator Goggin, I guess if our companies decided that they wanted to modify the technology and the investment they've made in that technology to deliver a nomadic VoIP service, they'd be subject to no state jurisdiction over that service. Fortunately, there are technical distinctions that have been made in how a service is delivered that we don't think should impact, from a policy perspective, how a service is regulated. I think that's really what it boils down to. We sort of made our choice